It's easy to get stuck reaching for the same familiar fruits and vegetables, even when you know a colorful variety is key. Balance of Nature's fruits and veggie supplements don't replace fruits and vegetables, but it makes it easy to add more variety to what you already eat. With 31 ingredients that are whole fruits and vegetables, switching it up is easy because we've already taken care of the hard part. Go to balanceofnature.com and get a free fiber and spice supplement, plus 35% off your first set as a new preferred customer by using discount code POD.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
The Rev and the Rabbi. Entertaining and informative. On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back. I'm Rabbi Joseph Potasnik.
And I'm Reverend A.R. Bernard.
Rev, you and I, whenever we talk politics, ask this question. What would Hank Sheinkopf say about this? He becomes the gold standard. And we're very fortunate to have Hank with us. And Hank, I see you in the city. You don't often see me because I'm following you. And I noticed that you're walking and talking, or you're walking and just listening. What goes on, Hank? What's the real story there?
Wait. He's not talking to himself.
That's for Hank to explain. Hank, what is it?
Okay.
Yeah, well, Rev, that's a good question. I know I'm not talking to myself, but what I usually do is I do business, but I also I'm also learning Torah as I'm going. I learn the Maimonides portion of the day, which is one chapter a day, and I learned the part of the Torah for that week of that portion, which is divided as I'm sure, and Rabbi Potasnik certainly knows, into 7 portions. And I learned the Tanya, which is kind of the Bible of Chabad Hasidus, every day a chapter, every day as I go. So those are things I'm doing, and then I learn other kinds of law, Jewish law, while I'm walking along.
I have a friend who's a doctor, ENT, and he doesn't start his practice in the morning without studying something from Jewish tradition. He dedicates a half hour, and so he learns. He learns more about his particular area of specialization, but he learns about his tradition. He says that half hour is so well spent and inspires me during my practice. So I understand your motivation. All right, Hank, we have an election to talk about. Let's talk about New York City. That I think by now everybody knows the results. I don't know anybody who wasn't listening.
Yep.
What?
Well, I think I may have said it on your program. So I certainly predicted it. New York accused me of predicting it as early as January, that Mamdani would be the winner. That it was rather clear at the time, although he showed a point or two in January. The city has changed. It is not the New York of 10 years ago or 20 years ago. It's a very different New York with a very different population. The city is heavily Chinese. It is heavily African. We probably have close to 900,000 Africans. We have a Chinese population. It's about 15.5% or 16.5% of the population right now. That likely will go to 18%. We have, what else do we have? We have, we have a growing Muslim population, which I would guess is probably 800,000 or so and growing. And we have a Jewish population that's probably under 1 million. I would guess about 800,000 people. So the dynamic has changed, and the city's changed where populations are located. If you go to Brooklyn for a second, Central Brooklyn was a critical area for African Americans. Today it's been gentrified. If you look at Queens, the majority, the black population has really shifted to Queens. A lot of the people there who are living there are Caribbeans, West Indians, and they are living in they're living in Southeast Queens. They're in 3.5 assembly districts. They're hard workers. They're extraordinarily involved in churches and civic associations. Let's see what else you got. We have a middle class that's leaving. The way into the middle class for many African Americans was civil service. So if you're a cop, for example, and your wife or your husband's a cop, and you hit 20, you bought a house in Ardsley Park, you sell it for 8 times what you bought it for. You pick up your pension. You pick up your gun permit. You pick up your pension. You pick up your health care until you hit Medicare, and you leave the state and move to someplace where it's cheaper to live. That is a constant. So the population is in great shift.
Yeah.
The Bronx has changed. When I was growing up, and when I came into the business and I did campaigns in the Bronx, it was about the Puerto Ricans and it was about African Americans. And I would argue with liberal politicians who would tell me, no, you don't understand. I said, no, I do. The Bronx was 80% black and Latin, and that was the facts of life. That's shifting again. Dominicans are moving in and moving out. They're leaving the city, moving to Pennsylvania and other places where they can do what Dominicans do, which is to build communities and build their extended families and find new opportunities. So we're a city in flux, and we're a city where the promise has somehow been lost, where we told people that if they worked very hard and they entered the middle class, that they would stay there and they could build things for their children. But the cost of living here is so high. And by the way, I might add, the cost of living here has always been high. So, what Mondami did when he talked about affordability was he hit the magic button. And he kept talking about it. He ran a very disciplined, extraordinarily good campaign and won. Simple.
So go ahead, Rev.
Go ahead, Rab. All right.
Yeah.
I was just going to say he focused. We were talking about this before the break, Rabbi and I, that Mamdani's strategy was he focused on what the people cared about. He stayed away from all of the extreme conversations, extreme left conversations and ideologies. And he addressed himself with discipline, like you said, Hank, to what the people were concerned about. They're concerned about inflation. They're concerned about rent. They're concerned about the quality of life, cost of living, the price of food, etc. I know from our own congregation, we experienced some 1,800 families who migrated from New York to the South, from our congregation to the South since 2018. And those migration patterns are affecting the city itself. So you really nailed it when you talked about change.
Except one thing. You said he stayed away from extreme positions, from those on. Hank, is that fully so?
Well, no, I think that extreme positions work in some conditions. Again, look at the campaigns that were run. Curtis Leal was very effective and very, very destructive. And I think that New Yorkers will return that favor, except in a small group that he was very visible in, and still believe that, Red Beret is a sign of bravery and strength when it really wasn't in this election. Andrew Cuomo won a terrible campaign. The primary was not well done. The general election got better 3 weeks out, and then it was just incompetence and people grabbing cash is my bet. I mean, when it's over, someone's going to have to explain how they spent $50 million, $20 million in the first independent expenditure, $20 million in the last one, probably $10 million in the campaign. Who made the dough, and how quickly did they leave town on a stagecoach, with the bag in the back? And Mondami ran a terrific campaign, extraordinarily disciplined, very well organized. And when it appeared to me that he was starting to lose his discipline, they shipped him out of town, which is fantastic. Also, he was candidates tend to fit the moment. This young man fit the moment. And his rhetoric last night particularly, it excited the crowd in the new population of New York and excited a lot of young people who are unfortunately the most pampered, most educated, most professional, least experienced, have paid no price, borne no burden, like him, have no idea what it means to defend democracy, have never done the dirty work of what it costs to understand and to live in a free society, and will stand to inherit the greatest transfer of wealth in the history of mankind when we die. They have no idea that the price of this lifestyle that they are enjoying was paid for by 9,000 people who are buried on the cliffs of Normandy above Omaha Beach. Mm-hmm. They have no sense about the history of the world. They lie to themselves about the Middle East. They lie to themselves about America. And they're going to take over the cities, and they're going to destroy the country. We're going to have a country, if this continues, in years to come, that will be called Pennsylvania, Delaware, half of Maryland, Virginia, south to Florida, and across to Arizona with the Dakotas, Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, and probably one or two other Midwestern states. So that's going to be America if this continues. And that is the danger when you don't have a civic culture.
What about the focus on the Middle East, though, Hank? The obsession with Israel, with Zionism?
It's insane. First of all, they're historically inaccurate. I mean, if you told them the truth, which is that Iran, really Persia, was Zoroastrian until the Muslims killed them all, and that Yemen was a Jewish country until the Muslims threw them out. And, we're going back in some time, and that Syria was an invention of the French that was filled with Druze, Catholics, Christians of other kinds, Alawites, Circassians, and I'm missing a couple Sunnis, and that they would never understand that, and that Transjordan is a make-up country that was where the Palestinians, so-called, were supposed to live. That they will never understand any of this because they have no idea about history. But they're obsessed with Jews, and they're obsessed with Zionism. And what's going to happen? Hannah Arendt was correct when she wrote about the decline of democracy and its destruction. She noted carefully that what we know is that anti-Semitism is the beginning, and cultures and societies tend to fold after that. Ask the Brits, who kept us out for those years until Cromwell brought us back. Ask the Spaniards, who are a 50th-rate power. The Greeks, who are a 60th or a 40th-rate power. The Portuguese, who are no power at all. And we can go on and on and on. And those that have brought us back have been kind to us, frankly, according to the Bible prediction, the prophecy. Italy, for example, functions well, and Britain is falling apart. We're leaving, and when we start leaving New York, the same thing will happen. Why? The mercantile class and the people that have been the glue with African Americans and others to create this extraordinary place called New York. And we went through terrible periods of misunderstanding and have kind of come together in many ways. When we leave, and we will start leaving, it will be amazing. Joe Kotkin, the demographer, and I had a conversation about 2 weeks ago, and he said to me, what the future looks like. 20 years from now, there will be less than 500,000 Jews in New York. They will be observant. The progressives will have intermarried and disappeared. The Jewish population, such as it is or will be located in North and South Carolina, Tennessee, and Texas.
Hold that. Hank, hold that thought. We've got to go to a break because when we come back, is there any hope? Is there a possibility that things can shake out differently? Hold on. We'll be back with more of the Rev and the Rabbi right here on the Red Apple Radio Network.
The Rev and the Rabbi on the Red Apple Podcast Network. If you're looking to create, grow, and sustain your wealth, download and subscribe to the Pain Points of Wealth podcast at BeBullish.com with Bob, Ryan, and Chris Payne. It's your podcast for market insights, money tips, and real talk on the economy. Download and subscribe at BeBullish.com.
You're a guy who just wants to look nice. The kind of nice where you might get a nice compliment on the niceness of your nice new outfit. Good thing Men's Warehouse has everything from polos to jeans, and yes, suits, plus a team to help you find the perfect fit to make sure you look nice. Nice. Love the way you look. Men's Warehouse.
The Rev and the Rabbi on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back. I'm Rabbi Joe Spatasnik.
And I'm Reverend A.R. Bernard. Hank, you've got us fired up here with your analysis. Is there any hope? Is there
Hank,
a possibility things will shift?
Hank, you and I spoke earlier, and you said something interesting. Because you have the shifts in demographics, what about shifting alliances? It's saying that if you want to be impactful, you have to form some meaningful relationships with other groups.
Rabbi, that's how it's been since the beginning. The Black Jewish Alliance really needs to be recreated. The Caribbean Jewish Alliance needs to be put together. The Hindu Jewish Alliance needs to be strengthened. There are imams and others who don't cling to this anti-Zionism or anti-Israel nonsense. They need to be visited with. We need to spend more time together in our churches and our synagogues and talking together. We need to eat each other's food. We cannot allow all these groups in what has been the most extraordinary, progressive, and frankly, productive place in the United States, which is New York. We have turned generations into productive citizens with a city university system that was until I guess about 20 years ago was extraordinary beyond imagination. I'm a lucky person. I was a high school dropout. The son of a 15-year-old mother and a 19-year-old father, abandoned at an early age, on the streets in the South Bronx, who today became who I am. Without New York, that would have never been possible. Someplace else would have never happened. And there are thousands of people like me who had similar kinds of experiences, who, through the greatness of New York, were able to become something that they never thought they could be. What Mamdani promises us is that we're going to fight each other, and that he's going to tell people who are moneyed that their place is limited here, and they will leave. So who's going to pay for this?
With that said, because I was going to ask you, we want to end on a good note, that there's some hope here, but I have to point to, I don't know if you're aware of CNN's Van Jones and the observation that he made concerning Mamdani's speech when he won, that the character of Mamdani switched after he won the election, and it became more aggressive, confrontational, and combative. Are we seeing something that's predicting the future here, Hank?
Yes, you are. And Van Jones is very smart. Listen, I'm no conservative. My first job when I left my previous employment, which was, as Joe knows, as a policeman, was I went to work for the Teamsters Union and did organizing, and I've been the political gun for Local 237 for most of the last ump years. And I've worked for unions. I represent a lot of unions. My public relations business is varied. I will tell you that it's not going to be so simple for him. The city has a yawning budget gap that's very significant. The Citizens Budget Commission says the state is in real trouble. We're going to have to come together, and religious leaders are going to have to lead that battle to ensure that no one is boxed out of the middle class because somebody got very angry and decided they would allocate the money to other places rather than where it should be, which is doing what New York has always done, building a middle class that can be sent all over the country to sing the praises of New York and the praises of religious communities that helped create that. If we lose that, if we lose that in anger, we will have lost the greatness of New York.
So, Hank, Rev and I have these discussions quite often about the role of religious leaders. You know, there are those who are saying you can't have any discussions with this mayor-elect. You just withdraw from the withdraw from the arena. The other side of that is, if we're not in the arena, if we're not indulging in discussion, debate, and all of that, how are we going to make a change? How are we going to make things better?
Well, if the religious leader community does not exercise its conscience, and by doing so, they force others to have a conscience, guilt is a fine thing. If your religious leader says you cannot injure another person's soul, heart, desire, or hope, then that is an extraordinary event. I think we have to be able to do that now. I think we have to depoliticize this and make it about humans. When you talk about getting rid of cops, you're talking about making the streets unsafe. And when you make the streets unsafe, the people that pay for it are not the rich. They're the people who work nights in restaurants and who clean the garbage off our streets and who do the manual labor that makes New York run. Those are the people that are going to get injured. And someone needs to tell this very educated and man who has never put a callus on his hands, has no idea what it means to pay a price or bear a burden again. Someone needs to explain to him that when you do these things, those are the people you injured. And we have an obligation, those of us who are religious leaders, to do that quickly.
And that means confront him. That means to confront, right?
If you have to, the answer is yes.
Yeah. Otherwise, we're just talking about the person, not to the person. And again, we can complain all you want, but if you're not engaged in trying to effectuate that change, then what are you doing? Besides complaining.
Right. We can't withdraw. We have to engage and be the prophetic voice that we're called to be. The religious community is part of the conscience, the conscience of the soul of our nation, of our society. And we have to use our moral authority, and we have to come together in order to do that effectively.
Right.
Absolutely. What Hank is saying is correct. Absolutely correct.
Hank, we don't have that much time left. I need to ask you, Jew to Jew, we have... Rev, don't feel left out. You can enter the discussion as well.
I'm listening. Okay, I'm listening.
It seems to me that we have a number of young Jewish people who are totally disconnected from our Jewish world. Israel doesn't mean anything to them, or they're hostile, but it's a different compass than we're used to. It doesn't have any Hebrew letters on it.
Well, I can explain that, Rabbi, in a different way. This was when de Tocqueville came here in the 1830s. He said that America was the most religious and over-organized country in the world. We were. The Judeo-Christian ethic was the response to what occurred in Europe and throughout the world when 100 million people, or close to it, were murdered in the course of a war that was beyond barbaric, in addition to what that the Jews suffered. But others paid a terrible price, including the Romani and the Shini and others. You know, the tragedy here is that we've lost that religious spirit because we have substituted, particularly for Jews, instead of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, we've now made it the God of Princeton, Yale, Cornell, and Harvard. That God is a temporary God. It only exists in buildings. It doesn't exist in the heavens. And unless you restore some faith and tell our children that being a Jew is the highest calling because we are the ones who created due process, morality, and God told us what our place was and what we were supposed to do. Unless we do that, we're going to lose another generation, and that generation will, frankly, haunt us and hurt us.
Wow. That's a strong responsibility for faith leaders today. We can't close our eyes to it and can't say it's going to come back unless we do something about it. Rev?
I think it's admirable. Yeah, well, look, I think it's admirable that Hank is making that particular claim that morality stems from the Jews. I think that was very, very important part of the law of Moses, although it didn't begin with Moses. I mean, the whole idea of morality has right and wrong behavior and ethics has been common throughout civilizations around the world. I think it was pinpointed in a very unique way, and that's why I am a Christian, because my roots, I am the fruit, my roots are in Judaism, because of the uniqueness of the law of Moses. When the morality and when the moral system of society, which is the family and the educational system and the houses of worship, religion, right? When that erodes, that society collapses. Economics becomes exploitation and politics becomes tyranny. We have to do our part in order to maintain the health of a society. So I'm 100% with this.
Isn't that why we meet people who are successful fiscally, but who are hungry spiritually? And they say, look, I've done well financially, but now what? What does it mean?
There is a distinction between Karl Marx and the great, Milton Friedman. I mean, there's a point in between, which is we have to protect those who need protection from everything, including the elements, including crime, and including fear and a lack of hope. And we also have to protect those who've been fortunate so they can contribute and do the things that we need them to do. It is a very difficult prospect.
Yeah. Well,
Hank, I'm sure we're going to need to have you back on the air as we walk through this together as a city and as a nation.
By the way, he's not just Hank, Rev. He's also Rabbi Doctor. He's got anybody. He doesn't.
Excellent.
He doesn't call so much attention to that, but he is extremely educated. Hank, why am I talking in the third person? You are really a treasure, and we value you.
I'm a lucky man.
And so are we to know you.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm a lucky man.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on the program. And thank you, our listeners, for joining us for another dynamic session with the dynamic duo, the Rev and the Rabbi, right here on Red Apple Radio Networks. Till next time, God bless.
Thanks for listening to The Rev and the Rabbi. You can hear The Rev and the Rabbi Sunday mornings at 7. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder,
what the heck is going on here?
It's easy to get stuck reaching for the same familiar fruits and vegetables, even when you know a colorful variety is key. Balance of Nature's fruits and veggie supplements don't replace fruits and vegetables, but it makes it easy to add more variety to what you already eat. With 31 ingredients that are whole fruits and vegetables, switching it up is easy because we've already taken care of the hard part. Go to balanceofnature.com and get a free fiber and spice supplement, plus 35% off your first set as a new preferred customer by using discount code POD.